Good evening. This is Miss Stereo reporting live from the KRMS headquarters. Tonight on Medieval Tonight, we have an exclusive interview with Surf Haley. Surf Haley, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm very nervous though. I have a lot of work to get back to.
That's understandable. We'll try to make this quick. Just to start off, I've heard you live in monotonous poverty. Is that true?
Well, it is true that serfs are the lowest of the low in the feudal society. We're not a slave, but we are bound to the land and to the Lord. Basically, we're the workhorse, and basically, our brutal routine lasts from sunrise to sunset. I'm always working. My back hurts.
Gosh, you should go see a doctor about that. Are all serfs the same? Are there distinctions among serfs?
Technically, maybe a little bit. All serfs are serfs. Sometimes we might be called peasants or tradesmen. If we're really a serf, we're really just bound to the land, and sometimes we can be called, like males can be called plowmen, and they have to work the land. A tradesman is a little bit higher of a serf because they can actually practice a trade, so like a blacksmith or a baker, but pretty much they're still at the bottom.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for filling us in. As a serf, what kind of chores do you do within a manor?
Everything. Your listeners think their life is bad. Mine is 10 times worse. It goes from ditch digging to road mending to plowing fields. It takes me a whole day to plow a field because we don't have these modern inventions. I've heard of tractors. Those don't exist. It goes from repairing tools. It goes from raising livestock. It goes from my actual farm animals live in my house with me because I don't have a barn. But my primary role is to watch the fields and harvest and plant and all of that nature.
Okay, so going off that harvesting and planting, tell us about agriculture or farming on a manor.
So farming on a manor is we use crop rotation. And so we typically have 3 crops. One will be fallow, which means nothing's on it, and then we have 2 other crops. Usually it's wheat and barley, and that's what we farm year round. Sometimes we'll have other grains on there, like rye and oats, but it's really just so that we can rotate them through so we constantly have a food supply.
That makes sense. So that rotation, is there some sort of seasonal planting for seasonal pattern for planting and harvesting that goes along with that planting?
My gosh, you should see my calendar from January all the way back to December. There's something to do. But I guess for your listeners, to give you a quick little reference to it, in the spring, we plow, and we plow, and we plow. And it is slow moving because I have to use a dumb ox. And you can just imagine how that looks going down. And then in the fall, we really try to get all of the grain and put them into the carts. And in those carts, we have to take it down to the mill, and the mill has to grain it. And then we have to take that to the baker. And then finally, we peasants can spread the grain on for our floor in our houses. We have to take care of the grain to the miller for the Lord again. It's just a constant work.
Wow, so much work sounds like. Are you ever paid for this work?
You're joking, right? We are never paid. This is part of my feudal relationship with the Lord, is I am given to the fife, and my job is to work it, and in return for all of my back-breaking work, I get to be safe in times of war, but there's nothing that I get paid.
Wow. Wow. Crazy. So with all of this hardship, why do you put up with this life?
Well, I'm bound to this fate by a feudal contract. So something that's very different in this modern world is you have choice. I don't have choice. I have this cooperation and obligation, and this is what I have to fulfill. And so I do get a few freedoms, which might be fighting in the Lord's army, but I am bound to this land, and the land is my, basically like a loan, and I can never get out of it.
Wow, what an interesting setup. You know what, Sir Haley, I'm just gonna have to tell you, your life is awful. You look terrible. What do you eat?
Our diet is pretty poor. We don't get the lavish meals that you might see on those movies. Typically, if my husband catches some fish, we can have fish. If it's a really good year and we're able to get some more pigs, we might be able to have some pork. We eat a lot of soups, which are pretty much watered down with few vegetables and few grain. We have dark bread because the best bread goes to the Lord. We get the darkest bread baked. And basically, porridge is probably our #1 meal that we eat year-round, just because it's the easiest and it's what we can produce for ourselves.
Wow. Okay, so you're making it work, and I respect that. Tell me about your living situation, your house or cottage. You live with your animals. It's not much better than a pigsty, is it?
No, that's probably a good way to describe it. It's one room. On the floor, it's a dirt floor, and we might actually put some reeds down to create some warmth in the flooring. There's no furniture. Probably in the middle of my house, I have a fire, which is the #1 thing to have so we can stay warm. We have a thatched roof, which is basically hay that's stacked onto each other. And we do have one window, but remember this thing called glass that I was hearing about, that didn't exist. So everything that we do just takes place in this one cottage.
Wow, so not much privacy, is there?
No, there is not privacy for anything. We sleep, but our rooms, I guess our homes are very different. We're only there to sleep and to eat. That's it.
Gotcha. Okay, so in the midst of all of this, do you get any breaks from this dull life that you live?
Fortunately, we do. We always have Sundays off because that's God's day, and most people in medieval Europe, we believe in the Catholic faith, and so that's our time to be with our families. We also get the occasional visitors to town, which is really exciting. It's called a fair, and this is where jugglers and magicians come and acrobats, so sometimes we're able to go to those festivals. And then otherwise, on certain holidays, we get holidays off where we can sing and frolic around with our families.
Okay, so that sounds like a nice break. Just looking at all of it though, that's not very often. So my last final question for you, and I've been known to ask the tough questions, don't you just want an escape from all of this miserable existence?
Oh, yes. I would love to be able to do this, and some actually are able to escape this life. Some serfs will specialize in raising sheep and hogs and work in the wood sheds, and they'll be able to sell it for a surplus, and that's what they're tradesmen. They were able to get a little bit higher. And you know, a real sense of freedom is when I can go to town. That's a real freedom that we don't have. And if you stay in town for 18 months and pay its taxes, you're considered a free man. So that's something that we all really just try to do. But again, it's really, really hard. I would say 98% of us serfs never leave the manor.
Wow. Wow, this has been truly an enlightening time. Thank you for sharing this insight with us. That's all the time we have. You look like you need to go work with pigs. From KRMS headquarters, this is Miss Dario checking out.